set up something. Speaking of that, though, you did start. I keep saying it, and then we keep going off. Your challenge. This is something
Yes,
people can join, and tell us about that and how you told me
sure.
about it. It's actually an idea you've had for your daughter had.
Yes,
Yeah.
my
So
daughter
go on to that one.
Andrea. Okay, so
Yes.
my daughter Andrea, who is my middle daughter, she's crewed me at Badwater 7 years in a row. And one of my favorite all-time photos is when she was 8 and her brother was 9. We crossed the finish line of the LA Marathon together. Now, this wasn't me doing the LA Marathon and my 2 kids running out the finish line going with me. No, we did every step of the LA Marathon together. It took us 8 hours and 40 minutes. And the picture, you can see the time clock in the background with that
Wow.
8:40 right on it. And, little 8-year-old, and 9-year-old little brother of hers. But anyway, so we've got quite a lot of shared experiences in running, and she wanted to put together a company, Just Run, and we have that now. And so with the virtual races that came out, and I don't want to say I was opposed to virtual races, but it just there was something inside me that's like, it's not really a race. You're just kind of running on your own and recording the mileage. But then I signed up for a couple of the virtual races, and it really did motivate me to get out there and get my mileage in. And so I saw the benefit of it. And then Andreas made some suggestions. So anyway, what ended up happening is,
she had been bugging you, and I know
oh
how
yeah,
it is to bug you. I've been asking you to do things for going almost a decade, and so she asked you to do it a few years ago, right? Yeah.
well, it really started heavy about a year ago that she
Yeah.
said, Dad, let's get this running company going. And we wanted to put on races, some
Yeah.
small little local races, and then give it the pandemic. So we ended up going with putting together I call it a virtual run or virtual challenge because I don't feel quite right about calling it a race. In my mind,
Hmm.
a race is, for example, this race I just did in Kansas. We show up together at the
Yes.
start line. We do the same amount of mileage with the same weather conditions and all the other
Oh yeah.
factors, all the same. That to me is a race because you're comparing, A to B to C to D. Where when it's a virtual event, when I could do it, at 60 degrees temperature in the cool part of the morning. And
Yeah.
anyway, so that's where I have a problem with calling it a race. But we call it the virtual run, and you could call it a race if you want. It's set up that way. It's kind of set up to be a race because you can track yourself and compare to yourself to others that are doing it. So we have 3 different distances. It's called Chase the Jester Across California because, well, I'm from California. So the first distance goes from virtually from the Golden Gate Bridge to the Lake Tahoe at the California-Nevada border, and that's 220 miles. It's the Pony Express Trail, and we talk about a little bit about the history of the Pony Express Trail and how that came about. It's pretty fascinating to me. I love history. And then there's that's the bronze, and so I fashioned it after bronze, silver, gold medals because 2 things. One is the Olympics, which were supposed to be coming up here shortly in Japan,
Hmm.
got rescheduled to next year.
Yeah.
But also because California is the only state in the union that's hosted both summer and winter Olympics.
Hmm.
There's Squaw Valley, Alpine Village up Lake Tahoe, and then LA. And Squaw Valley was, I believe, 1960.
Yes.
And LA was 1932, 1988, and coming up in 2028, be the 3rd year that LA hosted the Summer Olympics. Anyway, going from one venue to the other is 492 miles. So we made that the silver medal. And so the medals are actually, they're 5-inch medals in the shape of California,
Hmm.
in the color of the gold, silver, or bronze.
Yeah.
And they have some iconic pictures on them, and they also have a red outline of the route. So Pony Express Trail goes, again, Golden Gate to Tahoe.
Yeah.
Silver one goes Tahoe to LA. And then we have the gold, which goes from the border of Mexico all the way up to Golden Gate Bridge. And that's, I believe, 680 some miles. And then you could actually do a combo of any of the
Yeah,
two.
and the gold one was the missions, right?
Yes, that's true. That's the
Which
mission. So
every California kid
going to
and
the
parent,
missions.
and every California kid and parent knows
It's
the
on a
mission
mission
well
project.
because we have a mission project.
Yeah,
it's
and
like,
what is it, 6th grade that every
yeah,
kid has to
something.
do that? I
Yeah.
don't know if they still do, but yeah, when my
Oh
kids grew
yeah.
up, every year in sixth grade, they had to do a mission project. So yeah, so we all know the missions. And
Yeah.
another kind of interesting thing is the missions were built to be a day's distance away,
Mhm.
which they determined a day of distance back in those days, mid 1700s, on horseback was 26 miles. So me and the
Yes.
missions are not exactly 26, but based on that. So anyway, all the way up to San Francisco. And then there's the Triple Crown, which is if you do all three of them, and that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
Um, but there's also a theme behind it. The idea is to get out there and get some miles in, and it goes all the way to the end of the year. So at
Hmm.
any point you can jump in and
Yeah.
we started it on Memorial Day. So you might think, well, it's already been going on for 2 months. Yeah, but if you do the 220 miles, uh, 2 miles a day, a mile and a half a day, you can still get that one done. And the other
Yeah.
ones, you just figure it out. But there's something behind it as well, and that is to bring recognition to the new suicide awareness and prevention number. Many people are not aware of this, that there's a new national number. It's the number 988 to replace the
Mhm.
toll-free 800-273-8255, which is also 800-273-TALK. Even so, it's 10 numbers long, it's bulky, it's
Yeah.
not an easy number to remember, whereas 988, fashioned after like 911, you can remember that, and in
Hmm.
a crisis, hopefully it'll come to mind. The FCC, the congressional committee that oversees the FCC, passed it back in December of last year, and they said it would take 18 months to put it into action. And I thought, wow, that's just way too long, because that means it would be like this time next year.
Yeah.
Well, that wasn't so bad, because now they're saying, and I got to check and see, there was a vote that went before the full.
There was something late just in the news that was positive about it. And I should have sent you the link. I just was out
Yeah, I
walking and
think
saw it.
there was a vote. There was just like in the last
Yeah.
week, and I'm sure it would have been unanimous. I can't see why anybody would be against it. But they said when they were talking about the vote, there'd be 2 more years after that. It's like, wait a minute, it was supposed to be possibly May of 2021. Now they're saying summer of 2022, and it's ridiculous. Why is it that we don't just say, look, phone companies, I know there's some things you have to do, technical things, to do it, get it done. So that's part of the reason behind this race, is to bring awareness to that number and awareness to suicide awareness prevention. I've never made it a secret that I've dealt with mental health issues my whole life. I am uh, uh, bipolar level 1, so more of a minor degree of bipolar than the extremes, but and I've dealt with depression a lot in my life, and point in my life years ago, I was suicidal. So that's always been something near and dear to me, and I have no problem talking about it publicly, because I think it needs to be talked about and addressed, and not buried and pushed
Yeah.
under the carpet.
Good
So
good news here, Ed. I just I might have disappeared on the film. I don't know how, because it could actually zoom. I googled it. Like Joe Rogan and those guys have their lackeys do this, where they can look up things while they're talking.
yeah,
And it was that the federal communications rules require all phone service to direct all 988 calls to the suicide prevention line as of July 16th, 2022. So yeah, that was so that's unfortunately that was the latest news, but that's not for another year.
2022.
Yeah, 2022.
That's 2 years, and so to me, that's just
Yeah,
ridiculous.
two. Yeah,
If
yeah,
it's
it's 2 years.
why do we need? I mean, 2 years? Come
Yeah,
on, two
yeah,
months, two
yeah.
months at most.
See, when I first pulled it up, I didn't read it correctly. I thought, oh, July 16th, because I knew they talked. But yeah, they're going to take 2 years to do that, which is, and especially during. Let me try and get back to,
Oh, this
especially during.
pandemic.
I mean, and that's just definitely causing issues, and it's in the it's. I mean,
Terrible.
like myself, I'm not really too impacted, because in my family they're all homebodies and they don't go anywhere. I'm like the only one that ever left the house, and so they're pretty much rolling like it is normal. And I'm lucky that I've got my wife and kids. And unfortunately, when it first happened, I had that injury, and in fact. When I had the injury for the first 5 or 6 weeks, I was doing 10 miles a day. I was doing 5,000-mile years for 10 years. And then,
Wow.
so you take the human body doing that and then have it do nothing for a month. And then the leg wasn't hurting, or I could go out and do a mile or two at like 22-minute miles. Then like late April, I started getting a shortness of breath. And I've thought I've had like, I mean, everybody has anxiety. I thought, and they Google it and I had no other symptoms. So I thought I was having panic attacks, anxiety attacks, and I couldn't breathe. And it was coming like late at night. So I really was, again, thinking it was, mental thing, which is just like, a diabetes or, all those kind of things. And so, a problem is diabetes, you can give you insulin and take care of you. When it's a mental thing, what do? And so I was really, really freaked out and pretty scared. And then what basically happened was on April 25th, I had 2 or 3 nights that were just terrible. I was sleeping out in my backyard just because I often like land on the ground because I could breathe a little better. But the mental, so I ended up going to the hospital the next morning, which shocked my wife. It was the first time I've ever been to the hospital in my life, and thankfully it was a physical thing. I was just put on all this water weight because my heart basically it mimicked congestive heart failure. Congestive heart failure is your heart gets really big and then it gets thick to try and pump, and then it adds water to you, and that's basically what happened. Now, congestive heart failure is usually what you hear. No disrespect to people who might get at a younger age, but it used to be like, 80-year-old Senator so-and-so dies of congestive heart failure. It usually was the last thing that got you. You had great medical care and they fixed everything, but eventually the heart just goes, we're done. My doctor, after they thought that's what was going on with me, but then eventually they said, well, or your body just got lazy and quit working for you. But kind of going hand in hand with this whole 988, I was just having a break mentally, like, wow, who do I get a hold of? What can I do? And then, and someday I hope to have this person on and talk to him. I had an individual who I know, has had, has so many people in the ultra world with drug issues and stuff like that. And there's an incident where you want to get him help, but who do you call besides 911? You don't really want to hand him over. And in my head, after this all happened, I was like, it'd be really nice if there was a number I could call that professionals who knew how to deal with mental illness and drug issues could come and get him instead of the cops to come and get him and then throw him in the jail system. Yeah. So, this is definitely something that, and hopefully get that message out. Yeah. It's unfortunate. I was really hoping when I Googled it that I knew they'd said some announcement, and I guess in their world, 2022 is awesome, which is just, because who knows, with this whole COVID thing, it's just going on and on. I mean, high school sports in California now have been completely delayed. Football is going to be in January in cross country, and I'm hoping that all happens. So, speaking of that, I know you're trying to do some races. You did Kansas City.